Concern you that it takes, for some reason, a British government decades to get infrastructure agreed? I mean, Heathrow has been going on for many years, many different stripes of government, still no decision.
The feasibility, the priorities. This is something that is clearly of a political nature, and we don't go into political decisions. But I remember clearly the days when the Eurostar would take us very promptly from Paris to the border, and then as soon as we'd be out of the channel, it would go clickety-click, clickety-click, because it was slow. Eventually, it got done. So I very much hope that good projects like that will actually be implemented.
How concerned is the IMF about the pace of slowdown in China?
We forecast Chinese growth at around 6.8% this year, which is a little less than last year, but not much. We forecast 6.3% for next year. So we see a gradual deceleration of growth, but nothing like a hard landing, nothing like a collapse, as has been actually forecasted by some for many years, and which we haven't seen.
You don't think that bit of stock market chaos that there was, in which the Chinese government sort of bought its way in but didn't manage to do anything to affect it?
You know, when you look at those two markets, Shenzhen and Shanghai, they are still 30% up from a year ago. So yes, it was a massive drop in the massive appreciation that had taken place, but it's still roughly 30% up.
There was a rather delicious sting in the tail of your press conference, because having delivered a perfectly kind of straight analysis of what was going on, suddenly you said, by the way, I do absolutely support Britain inside Europe, inside the European Union. But I mean, the serious question is...
This is a personal preference. I was not expressing the views of the IMF, because we don't take views, but just for a microsecond I took a very personal view.
But the question I was going to ask you was that, supposing in fact an extreme government takes power in France and becomes a member of the elite of the European Union, would you still be as enthusiastic?
You know, I believe that open trade, freedom of movement for people, for capital, for goods, for services, has in the main been extremely helpful. And I also believe that in a geographical space where there has been so much by way of wars and horrors over the centuries, anything that keeps us together, that brings us together, is to be preferred. Added to which, I want my Christmas pudding at zero tariff when I'm in France.
Of course, for somebody like you, right at the very top of French life, the bombing in Paris, to be outside the country looking in, how did it affect you, and to what extent are you worried that acts of terror are actually going to affect economies?
Well, I was actually in Paris that evening, because I was on my way to the G20 in Turkey and stopping over to visit children. And it was horrifying, and it was a tragedy, and it was also, in the immediate aftermath, a sense of togetherness that I had never witnessed in a long time. I think since France had won the World Cup, actually. But it is a fact of our life, and it's one that your country here in the UK has dealt with for many, many, many years, and it is something that we have to just be more vigilant about, more concerned about, and more together against.
But you can see it in Paris right now. I mean, hotel bookings are down, confidence is down. That's a concern, isn't it?
I certainly hope that it changes, and I know that there is resilience and there is a French flair and a French spirit that hopefully will overcome that without ever losing that sense of renewed and reinforced vigilance and togetherness, which I so much value.
The IMF is one of the pillars of global administration. How do we beat ISIS?
I think vigilance is required on all fronts, and it ranges from financial flows to movement of oil, to trade, to anything that is totally outside my own competence and which has to do with defense, with intelligence, and with all these other things. But it's on all fronts.
Madame Lagarde, thank you so much for talking to us.